My name is Kiersten Kral. I'm 22 years old, and this is my 5th year on staff at RYLA. 4 years ago, I was a senior in high school. I grew up wanting to become a veterinarian with my own business and start a rescue. When I began running in 8th grade, I realized this too was something I wanted to do. So that was that. The college I had committed to would allow me to run and major in biomedical and veterinary sciences. Except, things don't always go as planned. A lyric from one of my favorite artists' Sat song says, "The vision that I followed didn't play out how I saw it, but the message and the lesson manifested in the knowledge." Unknown to me, my vision began to fade, and my message began to manifest on January 14th, 2017. It goes a little something like this. I lay there for a couple seconds, blacked out, and when I opened my eyes, I entered an unfamiliar world cloaked in fake familiarity. Everything hurts. The day I hit my head, my friends lost me. I've got a lot of dreams, man, and I've got a lot of plans, and I'm going to do them. I have since experienced debilitating symptoms, like a constant headache, migraine, neck pain, eye pain, strained fatigue, vision deficits, dysautonomia, fatigue, brain fog, low tolerance to physical and cognitive activity, low tolerance to light, noise, motion, odors, nausea, sleep disturbances, ear ringing, false sensations of motion, and elaborated visual illusions, and so on. They affect every aspect of my life. From showering to talking to my friends, the ability to drive, let alone be a passenger in the car, going into a store, being in crowds, folding laundry and cooking, watching TV and reading, walking and standing. It's wild to think that simple pleasures of hugs, snowfall, and beautiful busy patterns, or even previously thought of to be insignificant pieces of life like having my eyes closed, ceiling fans, hallways, uneven surfaces, elevators, and 2 conversations going at one time can cause and exacerbate my symptoms. Because of all that I experience, I live a life basically contained to my house, doctor appointments, and most importantly, my mind. I do the basic necessities of eating and hydrating, and then fill the rest with things I need to do to help myself heal, like riding the stationary bike, vision therapy, preventative and restorative modalities, and resting, as well as spending time with my pets, of course. I'll listen to music, an audiobook, or play an instrument if I'm up to it. I use different assistive tools, have seen different doctors, tried multiple different medications, and gone through specific therapies, all of which continues today. This journey, and healing in general for anyone, is not linear, nor is it visible. Although I'm fighting for my own normalcy, there are so many others throwing punches and matches that cannot be seen, felt, nor heard by anyone except them. We must act with kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and a willingness to listen, because we cannot assume the reality of others based on their appearance. I like to be completely fine and high functioning, but I'm dependent on those around me. Even though I share my journey openly, it's still difficult for people to understand. And it's easy to feel as if that's my fault, that I don't explain it well enough. But I learned that it's not my responsibility, and it is no longer my goal to make people understand. Unless you're in my skin, you won't know everything. And that's okay. I mean, that's the beauty of our lives. While infinite pieces of it are shared across the universe, ultimately, it's singularly our own. My journey has been slow so far, and in order for me to see improvement, I zoom out my lens, look at the entire paint-by-number picture. From there, I can see that some small shapes now shine with color. All I need to do is keep picking up my paintbrush and trying, because one day, this painting will be completed. Although, there have been moments in which it feels like the end is non-existent. For instance, I was in vestibular and neurooptometric rehab and was supposed to be getting better, but I had ended up regressing to the point in which I was worse compared to where I began. It took me many months to bounce back from this and achieve a somewhat stable baseline. During that time, I had an underlying feeling of acceptance that this might be my life forever. In conversations, I fell into a pattern of saying, if I get better. In my head, I'd come up with ways to shape the external world instead of my situation. Somewhere along the lines, I thought, if I can believe in anything, why am I choosing to believe in the outcome I don't want? I mean, We're given these limitless minds. Why would I put a definitive end on an infinite line? So I started to wholeheartedly believe in myself and this path I'm on. I chose to be the gatekeeper and watcher of my thoughts, allowing the doubtful and negative ones to walk in through their front door, thank them for showing up, but then show them the back door to leave. I asked the confident ones to stay for tea, absorbing their unbreakable energy, and invited the curious ones to dinner, listening intently to the intricate flow of words, giving my mind space to expand. I hugged the sad ones and danced with the happy ones. I breathed with the frustrated ones and spoke to the fearful ones. One day, past, present, and future knocked on the door. I welcomed them in and we began playing a board game. Past kept telling me what not to do. Future kept telling me what to do in 3 minutes, and present, well, she just sat there with me. You see, the past can try to guide us, and the future can try to drive us, but only the present will create the action. So much time is spent with Miss Past and Future that we are missing Miss Present in her authentic space, the time that only exists now. I have learned many things through this expedition thus far, and flowing deeper into the present moment is just one of them. Gaining an understanding of post-concussion syndrome, migraine, and dysautonomia is another, so I'd like to answer a few questions regarding them. But as a reminder, I'm not a medical professional, and this is just from my own learning and experiences. To start off, what is a concussion? A concussion is a form of traumatic brain injury and is the result of an acceleration and deacceleration of the brain inside the skull. This motion causes brain cells to stretch and shear, leading to chaotically firing neurons and miscommunication, which results in symptoms. It takes the brain about 3 to 6 weeks to recover from this, but in order to regain proper function, the brain also needs to undergo neuroplasticity. This is when it tries to rewire itself by building new neural pathways, using other pathways to bypass broken connections, and/or making new neurons. Neuroplasticity can be done through specific rehab, which uses different exercises that target the dysfunctional system. Our brains are actually always changing, especially when learning a new task. If symptoms last longer than 3 months, it is known as post-concussion syndrome. But how do you know if you have a concussion? You only need 2 things: a mechanism of injury and 1 symptom. Symptoms could be, but are not limited to, headache, balance problems, difficulty speaking, and emotional changes. If you realize you have a concussion, it's extremely important to look for a provider that is trained in up-to-date concussion knowledge and treatments. Your treatment and practitioner to look for will vary depending on what kind of symptoms you have and where they are coming from. Their root causes could be cognitive, ocular motor, emotional, vestibular, cervical, headache, and/or cardiovascular related. Some practitioners could be an MD, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, neurologist and headache specialist, PT, OT, psychologist, naturopath or endocrinologist, a chiropractor, or functional neurologist. There are a lot of common myths surrounding concussion, like, number 1, an MRI is needed to diagnose a concussion. An MRI/CT scan picks up on significant damage in the brain tissue, so a concussion cannot be seen because it is primarily a functional injury. Number 2, concussions do not heal after 2 years. With the correct rehab and medical team, concussions can always be treated, even after many years of symptoms. Number 3, you must lose consciousness to get a concussion. Only about 10% of people who experience concussion actually lose consciousness. Number 4, concussions are treated by resting in a dark room until you feel better. This was actually the old protocol, but because of research showing that the brain can change, remember neuroplasticity? The avoid everything and stay in a dark room method is a big no-no. Number 5, everyone who gets a concussion will experience post-concussion syndrome. Only about 15% of people will go on to experience persistent concussion symptoms after 3 months. Number 6, dizziness cannot be caused by the neck. Neck injuries and concussions can mimic each other. This means symptoms of dizziness, headaches, and even eye strain can come from the neck because the neck muscles and joints have receptors that send messages to your vestibular, which is your balance system, and visual systems known as proprioception. Number 7, You need to be hit in the head to get a concussion. You do not need a direct hit. Anything that can cause an acceleration and deacceleration of the brain can cause a concussion. Number 8. Migraine is just a bad headache. Migraine is a complex neurological disease and is believed to be genetic with an environmental aspect. It is more than just a bad headache with over 30 associated symptoms like difficulty reading, fatigue, numbness and tingling, as well as visual disturbances. And all of these symptoms can occur at different times because there are 4 phases of a migraine attack, known as the prodrome, aura, headache, and postdrome. There are also 5 different types of migraine, like a hemiplegic or vestibular migraine. Treatments look different for everyone and could be lifestyle changes, neurofeedback, acupuncture, chiropractor, or medications. One of the things I do is Botox injections every 3 months. This type of Botox is a little different from cosmetic Botox, but acts similarly by paralyzing certain nerve endings and blocking pain pathways. As you can see, the injections are placed all over my head, and I get 2 extra in my jaw. I also use modular devices, Cephally and GammaCore. Cephally stimulates the trigeminal nerve branches, and GammaCore stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, which runs from the brain all the way to your abdomen, is part of your autonomic nervous system, your ANS, and plays a very large role in many bodily functions. If you remember from prior, I mentioned that I experienced dysautonomia, which means my ANS doesn't function properly. The autonomic nervous system is a control system that acts largely unconsciously and regulates bodily functions such as blood pressure and circulation, pupil dilation, heart and breathing rates, body temperature, digestion, metabolism, kidney function, the production of bodily fluids, as well as the sexual response. There are 2 branches, known as the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is in charge of your rest and digest response. It slows down the heart rate and respiration and increases digestion. The fight, flight, freeze response is corresponded with the sympathetic nervous system, which increases the heart rate and blood flow to the muscles. Imagine them as each side of a seesaw. When one is activated, the other's response is decreased. In some people with dysautonomia, the fulcrum is not in the center, which means it takes much less stimuli to activate the fight, flight, freeze response, and much more effort to bring the nervous system back into balance. Symptoms of dysautonomia could be fast or slow heart rate, brain fog, tremors, fainting, and sweating less or more than normal. And examples of helpful tools could be things like medications, compression socks, or exercises that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, like breathing techniques and humming. There are many causes of dysautonomia, like genetic disorders, infections, chemical exposure, or physical injury. And there are over 10 types of autonomic dysregulation, so dysautonomia is just an umbrella term, just as brain injury is an umbrella term for concussion. Every brain injury is different. There is no one-size-fits-all roadmap, and what may work for someone may not help another, and even specific symptoms can express themselves differently in each case. It's a daily commitment to listen to my body and do what needs to be done in order to give myself the best shot at healing. But with experiencing this pain, struggle, and uncertainty, I realized that joy and gratitude are fertilized from within. This knowledge allowed me to radiantly bloom regardless of the circumstance. Who I am now is who I choose to be, and I'd like you to know that you are in control of who you become too. With that, I'd like to leave you with this. I want to start by telling you a brief story that I once heard. The story of little Grasshopper and his master in a temple a long time ago. Grasshopper had to be trained in the deep parts of Buddhism. During training, the master took little Grasshopper into the back of a temple to a room which was usually kept locked and asked Grasshopper what he saw. Grasshopper said, "I see a pool." "But what else do you see?" said master. "Go closer, but don't get too close." Grasshopper slowly edged towards the pool, his eyes widened. "I see bones. Bones in the bottom of the pool." But Grasshopper also saw a plank of wood, stretching from one end of the pool to the other. The master explained that it is not water, but concentrated acid, and those bones are from little novices like him who fell in. "In 7 days," said the master, "you will have to walk across that plank as part of your test. He then brought Grasshopper outside to the courtyard, where there was another plank of wood, exactly the same length, width, and thickness as the one over the pool, but this one was suspended 2 feet above the ground on 2 bricks. Grasshopper began practicing, and after just half a day, he could run across that plank, do it blindfolded, backwards, and dance across it. After 7 days, the master brought him back into the room to the plank suspended above the pool of acid and told him to walk. Grasshopper could see the bones in the bottom, and as he walked, he wasn't as steady as he was in the courtyard. His knees began to shake, and then he began to sway, and you know what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you, but in the meantime, I want to ask you who you are. But I'm afraid this question wouldn't take us far. We are born to feel as if we need a title. We grow up being asked what we want to be and are expected to say anything except, I want to just be me. A doctor, a writer, a musician, an artist, a one-word answer is what society expects. But what if I told you the possibilities were limitless? You see, we are not defined by the job we choose to pursue. It's like society wrote us a deadline and told us when the definition of who we are is due. But who we are is composed of a million little things, for within us lives a universe and all that it brings. It's written in our souls and echoed within our minds. It's unaligned, undefined, and most importantly, unconfined throughout all of mankind. It's the thoughts we think, both consciously and unconsciously, and our response to our environment as it's forever changing, both horrendously and beautifully. It's our journeys through the unexpected experiences and the way we live our life. It's our expressions through honesty, empathy, and vulnerability, and the impact we have on those around us. It's the things that go undiscussed, like our scars that tell our stories of our battles through both familiar and untouched territories. Many people believe they don't have a choice in life, but they couldn't be farther from the truth. We do indeed live in an uncontrollable world where tomorrow is not guaranteed, but within the unpredictable are things that are controllable. Like our attitude when we wake and realize we're running late, or the unconscious response to the unexpected that causes us to feel anger and hate. So no matter the day, you can choose which way you want to sway, to open-mindedly communicate and agree to disagree, but never giving up your fight. To smile in the darkness and continue to hope that one day you will find the light. To be grateful when you have nothing, and patient when you want something. This ability to actualize a choice gives you a voice within the unheard and a perspective that cannot be deterred. It's proven that thought alone can alter the brain, because neurons that fire together wire together, so it is up to you to decide how you want to change. We must become the best versions of ourselves, rather than trying to be better than anyone else. I believe we must be rich in life, but this doesn't live in money status. You must be rich with feelings and experience. It's about how much you laughed and loved, and all the times you failed but rose above. It's all the days you chose to heal from the things you didn't want to feel, and the endless lessons you once learned that told you where to turn. It's about how much of the world you welcomed within, and how much to the world you breathlessly chose to give. For all that is priceless. Listen, life isn't easy. It will knock you down and leave you bleeding, but with that you can choose to give up or choose to keep on believing. Our emotions can be automatic and many times systematic, so regardless of how you react, just don't panic. Just learn to be self-aware and love yourself and create a space to understand your mind. We all experience life in a different way, so when I say you have an option to choose your happiness, for many, that task is simply the utmost hardest. Depression and anxiety is not something I experience, but for many, it quietly creeps within their darkness. I want to shed a light on those fighting mental illness. I don't know the demons that steer the wheel, and I cannot take the pain you feel, but I have hope for you, that you will heal. Your symptoms manifest in secret, but I know they are real, for you are not invisible and you are not alone, so please keep fighting. for the you in the now and the you in the future, because you matter. And the world with you in it is surely much brighter. In a life so short, yet so vast, we must find our why. The reason behind our words and the cause of the wind beneath our wings as we try to fly. This is living with intention instead of living just to die. But unfortunately, not many people are living while they're alive, and to their grave they carry regret of all the things they didn't do, because they chose to allow their what-ifs and doubts become a threat and let life slip right through. So, why do you exist? Will searching for a purpose be a guide for something you can provide, or is that an endless mission with nothing external to find? For maybe the meaning of life has always been just to be, that being alive is nothing more than what's already found on the inside. Our power is hidden within those limitless confines. There are no fine lines of guidelines telling you how to make a difference, but if you still feel powerless, get this. One seed can grow one flower, but from that flower can grow multiple seeds, and those multiple seeds can grow into multiple flowers. It's as simple as cause and effect, and before you know it, your impact will triple. Just how one drop in the ocean is all it takes to create a ripple. Our space is filled by the energy you unknowingly release, whether that be negativity, which depletes, or positivity, which increases the loving peace. Which is why life shouldn't be blindly walked through, and why you should harness your authentic truth. I understand we all have our differences. Society assumes that's where we come from and what we believe in, our gender orientation or the color of our skin, but it's the million little things that beautifully shape us into individuals, including the stories written between the cracks of our broken bones and the scars we proudly wear, as we call them, our own. Our differences bring unmatched textures into existence, so I want you to embrace your individuality. Take down your mask and face reality. But more importantly, I want you to put down your paintbrush and stop painting judgment on others, for it is not up to you to determine their colors. It's scary to be you, but you are the only you, and I promise that is true. So go, chase after the dreams that were denied. You didn't come this far only to see the world without your eyes open wide. Do you remember that grasshopper story I told in the beginning? I left off asking if you knew what happened. Well, Grasshopper fell in. And you know what the master did? He laughed. Grasshopper began splashing around, but realized he wasn't burning. And that's when the master said, "Little grasshopper, it's not acid, it's water. We just threw the bones in for special effects, that's all." So, what pushed Grasshopper in? Fear. Fear pushed him in. For if he knew it was just water below him, he would have ran across it, just as he did in the courtyard. You see, in life, it's our fears, the what-ifs, the doubts, and the uncontrollable that keeps us from reaching our full potential. But we mustn't let it. We mustn't let our struggles or society keep us confined. We mustn't wait for life to unwind. We must let go and exist undefined. We mustn't go looking for something to find, because all we will ever need lives on the inside. So will you choose to see a pool of acid, or choose to see a pool of water? Will you tell yourself tomorrow, or next time, or next year, or tell yourself today? Because if not now, then when? Will you choose to rely on others to make a difference, or choose to be the difference? Because if not you, then who? And what will you say the next time someone asks? Actually, I'm going to ask. Who are you? Thank you. Mm-hmm.